Hello, Internet, and thank you very much for the CloudNativeFM podcast. I'm your host, Saim Safdar, and today's episode is titled Bridging Tech Ecosystem from MENA to Pakistan and Beyond. In this conversation, we dive into the how emerging market from Middle East, North Africa to Pakistan are not just adopting technologies, but how they're actually shaping the business side of the thing as well. So we'll be exploring how developer communities or communities in general are coming together to spark innovation, drive tech business synergies, and confront one of the region's biggest barrier to growth, the widening skills gap. So I am thrilled to introduce our special guest, Sara Zri-Malvy, renowned ecosystem builder, podcast host, and a community advocate in MENA and South Asia. Sara works as united developer across the board, whether it's scaling tech meetups or democratizing business synergies with tech. She has been at the forefront of cross-regional collaboration. So without any further delay, over to you, Sara, and give us a quick intro where you at and where you actually been focusing on these days.
Thank you for the warm introduction. Lovely to be here in this podcast today with you, Saim. And I'm so I'm from engineer background, so I know that you have a lot of technical people following you as an audience. So yeah, I'm Sarah. I'm French Moroccan, born and raised in Morocco. Spent the last 10 years in Europe, mainly into technology. The last 10 years almost. I built my first startup in edtech in 2020. That failed 2 years later. And now I'm more focusing, as you said, on building synergies and collaboration between the different countries of the MENA region, what is enabling me to really build that first layer of knowledge for entrepreneurs within the region. Because as I always said, we are in a insight-based ecosystems. That's what pushed me to do the podcast 5 years ago. I was the first podcast in Morocco with Moroccan diaspora talking about entrepreneurship and technology back in 2019. And this what enabled me to see how much knowledge gap we have in the ecosystem. And that's what I'm building now, the tech crunch of the MENA region. I guess all the tech people and the founders, we know what I'm talking about. So it's like a media outlet, but for tailor made for our region as entrepreneurs from the region, solving our own problems and also building a knowledge and a collaboration in terms of synergies, either investment, talent mobility on market expansion within our region, because I see it really as the next hub. US and Europe is kind of dead. And I'm telling you, coming from Europe, because I left Europe, physically left Europe, to be between Pakistan, Middle East, and Morocco.
Awesome. That's great to it as well because you actually been traveled a lot and you have experience from the French, Morocco, Egypt, and some of the other places as well. So I think for the first thing first, because building communities is now considered as a core front of the some of the tech uh, is a circle of collaboration and some of the opportunities that actually help entrepreneurs and startup to bright up innovation. So tell us a little bit about the stories of how is community building is different across the different region and what is the one common thing if I ask you find similar regardless where you are.
Oh, it's a very wide question because I don't know all the markets of the MENA region, but I'm really have a really close network of with Morocco, with Moroccan diaspora in Europe. I'm working with a investment fund. I'm a partner in an investment fund in Egypt that is investing in African and Middle East startups. And I'm also now being 6 months living partially in Pakistan. That enables me to see also the ecosystem in Pakistan. Um, the community building is definitely the way to go. It's been happening, I guess, especially in the tech community the last maybe 10 years, because it's important, especially with the open source thing. So I guess that it cannot be happening without community, and community enables you to move faster. But for me, it's really gonna expand on out of the tech sphere. I like the pure tech sphere. I because you were talking about cloud, Kubernetes, and so. So this is a very technical architecture matters that really needs a community to build on a long term infrastructure, let's say, for businesses and founders. But for me, this trend is expanding to to a wider scale, let's say, in the tech ecosystem. So it goes to now to the product, to the marketing, to how we build businesses in different countries. And for me, I'm a big believer of communities. I've been actually, since I was a student, I was part of ISEC. I don't know if you know it, but it's an international NGO that really built communities everywhere in the world and empower leadership and at the for the youth. And that's actually what really nourished this power of being in a community. It just makes you go much further and push in much harder as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as a business, as a maybe a CTO. It just push you to go further and go faster because you're learning from all the mistakes, the problems, the errors that others make, and you're just like going faster. So for me, the community is definitely the way to go. At WASSSL, we are building this community to really help entrepreneurs navigate the region because, as I said, since it's an insight based ecosystem, not data based ecosystem, comparing to Europe and the US, which they have been collecting data for the last 40, 50 years. So an entrepreneur, when he's launching in US, he has a bunch of data that's incredible. I don't know. I will give an example. He wants to launch a logistic company. I don't know. It's kind of a DHL or a PostX, like PostX in Pakistan. He wants to launch a PostX or a DHL or a logistic company in USA. He has like millions, if not billions, of data around the business. So he can know how he can enter the market, what are the things that are missing, and so the problem in the MENA region, I say like Middle East, Africa, and also Pakistan, it's like there is no data. So you're just like blindfold and go into the business. So you have not much idea of where are you going. And for me, that's why insights are important. That's why communities are important, and that's why leveraging the knowledge of the community with other entrepreneurs and founders who has done it before you or has done it in different in like a similar ecosystem. For me, Pakistan and Egypt has a lot of similarities. Morocco and Tunisia has a lot of similarities. So there is some countries where we can find some similarities, because I won't say like one thing, but there is few countries that you can easily connect to and copy from them instead of copying from the US or the Europe that is not working at all, because we're talking about really different market realities. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, absolutely. That's a perfect way to describe. I think the one thing I learned from your thing is that the way we build a tech ecosystem for the technology is now in need for the entrepreneur and the startup. Because that's where I find some people still live in the island. They think they have actually been, there's ways to solve the problem. They have the innovation in place. But as you said wonderfully well, that some areas doesn't have the data to start with. And that's where connecting the people from the different regions and telling the stories of where actually success has happened and what has fallen short is one of the way to actually navigate this path. And once you have a navigation, it's really a matter of connecting people, and that's where the community building comes together as well. So I think since we're on the topic of the community building, there have been conferences been happening all around the world. If in our world, there's KubeCon, AWS reInvent, Microsoft Azure Ignite. If we talk about in Morocco, French, and some of the people, even in Egypt, what sort of the conference or what sort of the spaces where entrepreneur or startup can go to and talk about their solution and then get build out synergies between different tech ecosystems?
Actually, this year I've done few of them on the Middle East. I've done Jitex Dubai, Jitex Morocco, and Leap in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. Um, for me, Jitex Dubai was and Morocco are definitely a really good way to start for founders within the region because it really connects you with the reality of these market, and you have also entrepreneurs coming from almost everywhere to connect. To be honest, Lip Saudi Arabia, I didn't much felt the energy of the country. It's kind of a still very closed ecosystem. Even if like we're now seeing it's like the ecosystem is exploding like crazy. A lot of funding coming to Saudi Arabia in terms of technology, but there is also maybe kind of maybe a culture or also old behaviors that we're staying with together, not opening up to the world. So it's something that is gonna happen, but not right now. So it's gonna happen in the future for Saudi Arabia, for example, to be able to open up to, I don't know, North African entrepreneurs, Pakistani entrepreneurs, more and more, to be able to expand easily there. So for me, it's like the way to expand within these countries. And we talk on offline last time when we talked first time together about countries like Pakistan, Egypt, maybe even Tunisia are also countries who has their money devaluating as crazy, and it's kind of a matter of survival of the startups or the entrepreneurs to expand to other markets to be able to balance and mitigate the risk. So if you are, because if you are a Pakistani startup and you are making your money only in rupees, at some point it's gonna be really hard for you to scale. Or even in Egypt, same. Or if like the money devaluates, sometimes the money devaluates in 6 months by 50% or 30%, and this is something really that can kill every small companies or startup. So for me, it's definitely that's why I'm doing this job with WASSL, is to be able to how we can really empower those founders to to get some enlightened decision making when it comes to expansion and exploring new markets.
Absolutely. And I think we last time we spoke about it, like some of the region, there's always been the product is being in an exploration or proliferation of the product, but you don't have much sellers at your disposal. It's something like everybody is building something, but don't know where to sell these products, especially in the Pakistan market and bunch of the other, I think, new builds market that really establishing up. So if you are actually a part of those startup in the region, so what are the navigation path for it? Because you need a revenue cycle for the survival of the company and the survival of the innovation. And I think the survival and innovation is very important because eventually you actually hit the market sides if your solution is work. But what were some of your advice you can actually tell to the startup and entrepreneurs if those are in the MENA and the Pakistani market? Or some of the new established market, how they navigate this path?
For me, I will share it as opportunities and challenges for these region. The opportunity for me in countries like Pakistan or Egypt is like you are able to build and test in a cheap way, which is good. Like building and testing it cheaply. And the second thing, it's for me, it's for the entrepreneurs and founders also focus. It's emerging markets that are quite sensitive to the prices. So it's better to price your service or your products at a small price and having a big rewards because you have a big market. And I've seen this, for example, with Post X. When you're taking only that small chunk of delivery, which is like 300 rupees or 400 rupees, which is like $1 something, almost everyone will pay for that. But it's just like you need millions of orders to be able to to have a good business model and to have a good revenue model. And the opportunity definitely also for me in this market, especially that I've seen in Pakistan and why I moved there, it's everything to be done For me, like everything is to be done. It's like it's a market that has been a little bit closed due to many reasons, political, terrorism, all the stuff that has been Pakistan has been, for me, it's not a reality, but the media propaganda was quite bad. But but the reality is like everything's to be done, and it's a country where you can build a lot of things from scratch, testing them, building it and testing it cheaply, and you can then expand very fast to other countries. Middle East can be a really good opportunity. Also, I'm now through WASSSL also we are supporting many entrepreneurs from Pakistan and the MENA region to uh, expand to Morocco, because it's a stable economy, it has stable money. I just published a LinkedIn post this morning around the e-dirham, which is a digital currency that Morocco is launching. It's the first country in the world who's launching his own digital currency. So it's leading the way in terms of fintech, for example. And Morocco is also a good option, not because only it's my country, because it's a good option to expand to Africa, because African market is booming like crazy, but it's still not very safe, very secure in terms of politics and socially speaking. So all the big tech companies like Oracle, HP, they are headquartering in Morocco. So it's a way also for entrepreneurs to give them the chance to mitigate the risk and have alternative revenue coming in different currencies. Because as I told you, like for me, Europe and US, it's kind of saturated market. And the challenges, there is some challenges in this market that entrepreneurs who want also to enter has to be aware of them, which is you have definitely less support than being in Europe or launching in Europe or launching in US in terms of ecosystem building, in terms of funding at first, because you really need to bootstrap most of the time and spend your own money, your own time, your own energy to be able to get something and at least have your first revenues before being able to leverage or having investors. This is something very important to highlight, and people has to be aware of it wherever they want to operate in these markets. And also the ecosystem mapping is quite fuzzy. We don't know where we have to start and how to start. So you really need to spend few months, or yeah, for me few months minimum in the country if you are reallocating or wherever, to be able to understand well where to start and who's doing what, because not everything is available on internet, and sometimes it's like you just kind of feel lost as a, especially as a first time entrepreneur or founder. And the data issue that we talk about, that is really a big issue that I hope one day we can contribute with WASSLE to solving some of it, but it's a long journey to go.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think this really resonate with the audience as well. I will see in the comment section how people actually been thinking around on the same topic as well. Because I think once you don't have a data, it's a blurry market to enter. And nobody wants to jump into the blurry market because there's a risk factor is associated with it. But now, as you mentioned during the podcast, the WASSLE, the things your team and you have been building up. So tell us a little bit more about it. What their motivation was, how people can enroll with your some of your program, and what is one of the primary reason or motivator of creating this kind of initiative.
Yeah, so I start with the motivation. Actually, what happened is like since I've been a podcaster with Moroccan entrepreneurs around the world, I was doing exactly the same as you, talking to Moroccan entrepreneurs around the world, like really in all continents. I've done more than 120 episodes. And by talking to those hundreds of entrepreneurs, I felt that they wanted to contribute to the economy of Morocco as a country. And I think it's similar to other just diaspora, Pakistani diaspora and other diaspora. They want to contribute, but they don't know how. And they have this same fuzziness, blurriness happening regarding this market. So that's what actually nourished this idea to create kind of a tech crunch of the MENA region. That's how I say it, is to be able to create this first layer of knowledge. So the first layer of knowledge is missing in our ecosystem. And if you don't have the information, you cannot move forward. This is the first thing. So for me, that's why the media is important, and it's also important to celebrate our own stories, to celebrate the entrepreneurs that are succeeding in a very difficult market, and to talk as to own the narrative as entrepreneurs, because we've been always talked about. So Americans or Europeans, they will talk about us. Okay, that's good. We don't care about you anymore. But now we need to talk about ourselves and speak our culture, our value, our way of doing business. Maybe it's really different from how you were doing it, and copying the Silicon Valley model, it's not possible anymore, and it's more um, preventing us from succeeding than enabling us for success. So for me, this is the first layer. The second layer we are building is the capital. It's as I've told you last time, also about building that investment fund that will be able to invest in the region in different projects. The third one will be the capacity building, which is can be incubation program, startup studio, digitalization, and the last one that comes also hand in hand. So for me, it's like four pillars. It's the networking and information. So having events, webinars, creating this awareness, and maybe have one day Pakistan having that tech summit, let's say. By the way, Pakistan is like really working very heavily on being a tech destination, a little bit like India, but in a smaller scale. But for me, it's possible. It's possible. They just need to. That's why media is important. Pakistan has been a little bit victim of the media because everyone talks about Pakistan, but Pakistan doesn't talk about itself. So that's part of my mission also, to be able to give another image of Pakistan as being there, physically there. So because what you're seeing outside is different from what you're seeing on the field. So this is my biggest mission. It's to really, as I told you, I dream of a word. I have a dream, like John Martin Luther King have said, to see real synergies happening between these countries in terms of like countries investing in other countries, startups expanding in other markets within the region, and the talent mobility being easy to manage. I mean, I don't know. I get back to Hubble. Let's say Hubble, this fintech startup that has been the biggest round this year, $52 million. They are expanding in Saudi Arabia. So Pakistani talents can, for example, move easily to Saudi Arabia, and maybe also they will integrate some other talent from Egypt, from Morocco, from Tunisia, and enabling this movement with people who, we have a lot of similarities. Yes, we are different, but we have much more ground of similarities than with Europeans and Americans. So people has to really be aware of this, and we can leverage those common ground of values and culture we have, because it's gonna just help us build a business that look like us more than something. I call it like just trying to put a triangle in a circle. You know, the small kids, the kids game, and they are trying to put the triangle in a circle. For me, this is what's really happening. And owning our own way of doing business and our narrative is so important. And part of the thing I'm launching in the next few months, inshallah, is the community with WASSL. So it's like really supporting the entrepreneurs from the region to be able to learn from each other, and mobilizing the collective intelligence, because I think for me this is the key. It's like really collective intelligence to move faster, to go further. This is it.
Absolutely wonderfully well. I think I grab one wonderful statement from you. We need to talk about ourselves. Refs to the word is keep talking about us. Now it's the time to tell people who we are actually. And also the another thing is really common because some of the market is shifting quite nearer to where the Pakistan is. And that's where we share the common culture and common values that you can't actually copy paste from the Silicon Valley. This culture is completely different, its values are completely different, and we can actually be in a cheaper market to build and test and deploy things. So that's a very neat way to think about we can add value.
I just jump with the AI, and now with AI it's gonna get worse because now ChatGPT is developed in California. So the engineers who are doing the reinforcement learning, they are doing it with their references, with their cultural references, with their value references, and it's crazy because it's gonna really impact us as community if we're not building our own models of AI with our culture, with our values that is important for us. So people are not aware of that, and AI is gonna really make us either thrive if we are owning our way of doing things, or just be a follower forever. And for me it's like gonna be slavery.
Absolutely, 100%. We can actually think of analogy like if you are in a Formula One car, you always have a different tracks. And if AI was trained on just one track, you can't actually ride a car on the different track when the car has been changed and its destination has been changed. So I really like the analogy of like you we have a common share and common ground that's very important for us. So I think so, Sara, it's been great to see your initiation of WASSSL as a community and WASSSL as a people to tell the first knowledge layer of the stuff, that is a knowledge layer, because we don't have data, somebody to tap into this market and tell this market has a completely different insight to what the rest of the world is, and we need to incorporate those as a community building stuff. So I look forward to some of your solution and some of the things you actually coming up in the near future. That's great to hear, and I will invite you again further to discuss those solutions and why those importance are. And tell us before we leave the conversation here, some of my audience are from Pakistan, they might want to meet you sometime in the near future. If that's the case, when you are in this region, and some of the conference or some of the things we have been planned so people can talk about or learn from you or can share a coffee chat with you.
Oh, so I'm reachable definitely through LinkedIn. I'll be in Pakistan in September and October. I to be honest with you, I don't have an event planned yet, but I have definitely a podcast that's gonna be done with the Telenor in Islamabad. But yeah, I'll be having all my, I mean, like if there's any events I'm attending or I'm speaking to, everything gonna be on my LinkedIn. So I will share inshallah the on the notes of the episode, everything around WASSSL, link my LinkedIn, that people can reach out to me easily.
That's super nice to hear. I think if you are in Islamabad, I definitely want to meet you as well. And also, we are hosting some event in 2026, and you will be invited for that as well because your knowledge is super important to some of the stuff as a community we have been thriving forward as well. So it's been wonderful conversation I have. Finally able to pick up some people who can actually be interested in understanding this part of the market that is really closer to my heart as well. So I always have loved to talk about with those people as well. So I learned a lot from you during this conversation, having a common culture, common values, a cheaper market, and the cheaper way to build stuff is one of the resonating ways as well. So I will grab the one wording from Timothy Sinclair from the Kubernetes community, and he described this as a community building as if you want to go fast, do it alone, and if you want to go far, do it together. So that is the
Exactly.
motivation for us in the near future as well. So hope you like the conversation, and thank you very much, Sara, for your first appearance on the Cloud Native FM podcast. Hope to meet you again in the near future. Thank you everyone for listening to this episode. Chat your comments in the section what you feel about the topic we discussed today, and we'll look forward to answering those as well. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll look forward to meeting you again in the near future. Bye bye.